I told him, I tell him face to face, I've said it on the show, he went too far left for me often. But it is encouraging to see that in at least three places I can think of, he has moved it back to the center. But he's got a long way to go if he wants to do that.
Ma is once again calling out the Democrats, warning them to face reality before it's too late. Since their defeat in last November's elections, the DNC has tried multiple times to regain ground. But Ma says their comeback attempts are half-hearted, built on the same mistakes that cost them power in the first place. In a recent conversation with Stephen A. Smith, he didn't hold back, aiming straight at his own party for living in denial. There's a lot to break down here, so let's jump right in.
To me, the Democratic Party is a ghost brand. You know what a ghost brand is? It's like Sears or, General Electric. It's still a company, Abercrombie and Fitch, but they've really fallen on hard times.
Yeah.
But they've been around for a long time. So there is value in, it's an asset, right? Because there are still people who know of the company, and if you could have somebody take it over, who's not sentimental about that company and, relaunch it, rebrand it. But it would have to be somebody who is unapologetic about calling them out. People have lost faith in the Democratic Party for very good reasons.
Ma says the DNC has become a shadow of what it once was, a party that used to fight for the poor, the working class, and the forgotten. It once stood for fairness and opportunity. But now, he argues, it's almost unrecognizable, a chaotic battleground of extreme ideas where moral posturing has replaced genuine progress. Instead of bringing people together, it's dividing them under the guise of virtue. And Ma isn't the only one saying it. Even Democrats like Gavin Newsom have admitted that the party has grown toxic and needs a serious reality check if it ever wants to win back the trust of everyday Americans who feel left behind.
You're the only one I hear who doesn't look like he cares what the other Democrats will say about it.
I don't care. I really don't.
Right,
I
know.
I don't give a damn what they say. I really don't.
I know. And it's somebody, I don't either. I'm right where you are. We're very close on all these things. And I think somebody with that kind of abandon is the only person who is going to win back former Democratic voters who have switched over.
Ma insists the DNC urgently needs new, energetic leadership. Figures who can inspire the same loyalty and influence that Trump has built within the GOP. In his eyes, the current leaders lack charisma, conviction, and any real connection with ordinary Americans. They're trapped in a cycle of political correctness and performative wokeness, completely out of touch with what voters actually care about. Real problems, real solutions. Ma argues that this fixation on identity politics has driven away millions of moderates and working-class voters who once stood firmly with the party. Unless Democrats find a leader who can channel people's frustrations, unite them, and steer clear of ideological extremes, Ma warns they'll keep losing ground to Republicans, who, whether you like it or not, understand the cultural pulse far better.
So have faith in California Governor Gavin Newsom, did you not?
I love him as a candidate, yes. I mean, you're right. He's not exactly what I'm describing now. Right. I think he'd be a great candidate. He has shown in recent months the ability also to move to the center. He would have to do it a lot more. But as a candidate, he looks great. Great speaker, very forceful, can be mean, which is really important, and he can do it. He also has the backing, or certainly should, of where the energy is in the Democratic Party, the far left, because, he's been out front on a lot of very liberal issues, which I think is great. Gay marriage here in California and stuff like that, pollution, all sorts of stuff that we believe in.
It's telling that Ma doesn't cite a single real accomplishment from Gavin Newsom. That silence says everything. Even Ma, once viewed as a reliable ally of the California governor, seems unable to point to what Newsom has actually delivered since taking office. Instead, what stands out is Maher's subtle admission that Newsom has become a darling of the far left. In other words, he's planted himself firmly in the same woke territory Maher has spent years calling out. And that's where things get messy. If someone like Bill Maher, one of the few liberals still willing to defend his party, hesitates to endorse a Newsom presidency, It signals a deep fracture within the left. His message is clear. The DNC won't win back mainstream America by doubling down on leaders who embody the exact ideologies turning voters away. Not now, and definitely not under Newsom's brand of politics.
But, you know, he does have a long trail to lose the baggage of governor of the most liberal state in the country. And, you know, I tell him face to face, I've said it on the show, he went too far left for me often. But it is encouraging to see that in at least 3 places I can think of, he has moved it back to the center. But he's got a long way to go if he wants to do that.
Maher has finally accepted what many have suspected for years Gavin Newsom has veered too far left to be trusted with national leadership. It's a surprising realization coming from someone who once praised Newsom as one of the Democrats' brightest stars. I remember an episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, where Maher grilled Newsom over California's law requiring major retailers to create gender-neutral toy aisles. Instead of giving a straight answer, Newsom drifted into a cloud of buzzwords, vague talking points, and awkward gestures, what Maher hilariously dubbed word salad. That exchange summed up Maher's growing frustration perfectly. Politicians more interested in appeasing progressive activists than solving real problems for everyday Americans. To Maher, that's not leadership, it's political theater dressed up as progress.
A far lefty can win a national election in this day and age? A presidential election. Do you think that could happen?
A far left, you mean like AOC?
Yes. I'm just whether it's what you said about Newsom, whether it's an AOC. I mean, do you think somebody like that can win a general election for the presidency of the United States in this day and age? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I mean, that's, you know, anything is possible, and possibly it would excite a certain group of people who have not voted. And I mean, what if 80% of Gen Z voted? Could then a Mondami-like candidate win? I guess so, but I'm not expecting that to happen, and I don't think it's the smart bet for the Democrats. There was an article in The Atlantic this week about, well, the Democratic leadership keeps saying the Democrats should change course, you know, away from the far left, but they're not doing it.
Maher doesn't believe figures like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Zohra Mamdani have what it takes to pull the Democrats out of their losing streak. And honestly, he's got a point. These politicians may dominate Twitter and cable news, but their brand of hyper-progressive, performative politics is exactly what's been driving middle America away. Their focus on activism over practicality makes for catchy sound bites, not winning campaigns. Maher argues that if Democrats are serious about taking back power, they need to abandon the echo chamber of the far left and return to the core values of true liberalism: open debate, rational thinking, and real-world solutions. The party needs leaders who can connect with working-class Americans, not just college campuses and activist circles. Until that happens, the GOP will keep winning elections while Democrats stay busy fighting culture wars and debating pronouns.
I'm very, very worried about the left because you should be focusing on trying to win the midterms, and I don't see that happening. Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel for the Democratic Party for 2026 or 2028? My last question to you.
I think they can win those elections. I don't think the right, as long as they appear the right, and there is a lot on the far left, as long as they appear that way to those Republicans, it doesn't matter if they win the election. The right is not going to give up power.
That's exactly Maher's point, until the left drops those fringe, out-of-touch ideologies like claiming men can get pregnant or letting biological males compete in women's sports. They'll keep drifting further from mainstream America. Most people aren't lying awake thinking about gender theory or pronoun debates. They're worried about paying bills, keeping their jobs, affording rent, and feeling safe in their communities. Maher has been saying it for years. Democrats are losing because they've traded common sense for ideological purity. Instead of tackling real-world problems like the economy, border security, and global stability, they're busy chasing applause from Twitter activists. If the DNC wants any shot at rebuilding trust and winning again, it has to get back to reality, to the kitchen table issues that actually matter to ordinary Americans.
They've already shown they are perfectly comfortable with Trump still has not conceded the 2020 election.
Right.
You know, it's, as Stalin said, it's not who wins the most votes, it's who counts the votes. And so if the right still thinks that the left is an existential threat to this country because they want to rewrite all the rules of human nature and then have nobody debate them, yeah, I don't think it matters if the Democrats win. The Republicans will just find a way to say, no, actually, that's not going to happen.
That's a fair point, and Maher doesn't shy away from it. Even years later, Hillary Clinton still insists Trump's presidency was somehow illegitimate, repeating the claim in interviews and speeches. She's never fully accepted that he beat her fair and square in 2016, often blaming outside interference or unfair circumstances. So, no, this isn't just a Republican problem. Democrats have done the same thing. Maher's argument cuts both ways. Democracy only works when everyone, regardless of party, respects the process and accepts the results. When every loss turns into an accusation of fraud or conspiracy, trust in the system crumbles. Until both sides, left and right, learn how to lose with dignity, America will stay trapped in this toxic cycle of denial, division, and distrust.
Right, because years ago you said that Trump wasn't going to walk away easily.
Yeah.
He was going to fight. You called it before anybody else
Yeah.
did. And you've also pointed out that, and Gavin Newsom has now jumped on that bandwagon. They think he's going to try to circumvent the 22nd Amendment, courtesy of Steve Bannon and others, circumvent the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution, and he's going to stay after 2028 in some capacity. So all of that is stuff that we can get into at a later date. Bill Maher, host of Real Time with Bill Maher on HBO. Man, I love your show. It's the best political show.
Trump has made it clear time and again he's not running for a third term. And frankly, we should believe him. The Constitution allows only 2 terms, and Trump has repeatedly said he respects that rule. What really matters now isn't speculation about another run, it's his record. Under his leadership, the economy is stabilizing, jobs are on the rise, and public confidence remains high. Recent polls and the GOP's strong midterm performance show that his message is still resonating with voters. People are responding to tangible results, not political theater. From border security to foreign policy to economic growth, Trump's policies continue to strike a chord with everyday Americans, especially those who've long felt ignored by Washington. For many, he's not just a politician. He's the voice that finally made them feel seen and heard.
You can be woke with all the that now implies, but don't say that somehow it's an extension of liberalism.
Right.
Because it's most often actually an undoing of liberalism. So you can have your points of view and your positions on these things, but don't try to pick on what I've always believed. I have always believed, as liberals do, for example, in a colorblind.
Maher closes his argument with a powerful distinction: being liberal is not the same as being woke. He explains that while woke ideology may have grown out of liberalism, it's now something entirely different. True liberalism, Maher says, is about open-mindedness, debate, and defending free speech. It's about progress through reason and tolerance. Wokeism, however, has turned into the opposite: a rigid, judgmental culture that demands absolute conformity and punishes anyone who dares to disagree. Instead of fostering equality, it enforces ideological purity. Liberals, Maher argues, try to persuade, the woke try to cancel. That's the real divide tearing the left apart. For Maher, the path forward is clear. The Democratic Party must reclaim its true liberal spirit and reject this new authoritarian mindset disguised as progress. Once the party fought for fairness, free thought, and the working class. Now it's stuck in culture wars and virtue signaling. Until Democrats return to common sense and reconnect with everyday Americans, they'll keep losing both elections and credibility. Real progress, Maher reminds us, doesn't come from outrage, it comes from reason, balance, and the courage to think freely.